That was probably.
Okay. Okay. That was just included as a rider?
Oh, yeah.
That was on the bottom of the chart. So I have to choose some things. We have more students than that. Oh, just.
Yeah, I'll do
Just after boarding committee reports and all that?
Yeah. Well, yes, there is.
It's just better to do it that way.
Or annoying her.
So we'll do it after upcoming event. Well, it's past our time, so I'm going to call our meeting to order. And with that, I'm going to invite us to stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the minutes from the 2/25/25 regular meeting.
So moved. Second?
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, you might be looking at your agenda thinking Aaron missed something. We're going to rearrange our agenda a little bit. We're going to move executive to the end so that we don't hold up these young people from sharing with us as we do our work as well. So we'll move that and personnel to the end of our time. I also just want to update, and you all were there, but update our community that we are continuing our work of our search for the new superintendent. And in the coming days, more information will be coming to the public about some of the next steps that looks like. And we've been engaged in some focus groups and some interviews and just working the process. And I think as a board, we feel pretty good about the candidates that we're walking with. And so coming months, there'll be more about that. We just want you all to be aware that we're engaged in that work. And we're just about at that pivot point where things swivel out and there's a little bit more information for you. So that's all I have.
All right, we've got some students to have you listen to for a bit tonight. We've got 3 different groups of them actually. The first, we have a couple of high school students, and I'll ask Mr. Van Etten to speak to the folks that are here with us and what they are here to share this evening. So Mr. Van Etten.
Mr. Chair, thanks, and thank you students for coming and sharing some of the good news that we have to share about you with the Board of Education tonight. I'd like to ask Mrs. McLaughlin and Emma Rabidou please to come forward, and Mr. Dolson and Anna Aldrich please come forward. A lot of good news about Homer schools lately. These 2 individuals are fine examples of some of that good news. I'll start with Emma. For the last several years, we've hosted a Shakespeare recitation competition. Mr. McLaughlin, thank you for your efforts with that. Emma placed locally in our Homer competition that brought her to Syracuse to compete. And she brought home 3rd place with that, which is pretty impressive and certainly something I'm not sure if I can trust Ms. McLaughlin, so if you have any other details there, but I believe you might have something you're prepared to share with us.
Yeah, I have a sonnet prepared that I performed as part of my performance in Syracuse.
Without further ado.
Where should I stand this year?
Okay. Can you all see her okay? She's there? Thank you.
This is Sonnet 15 by William Shakespeare. When I consider everything that grows holds in perfection but a little moment, that this huge stage presenteth not but shows, whereon the stars in secret influence comment. When I perceive that men, as plants increase, cheered and checked even by the selfsame sky, vaunt in their youthful sap as height decrease, and wear their brave state out of memory. Then the conceit of this inconstant stay sets you most rich in youth before my sight, where wasteful time debateth with decay, to change your day of youth to sullied night. And all in war with time for love of you, as he takes from you, I engraft you new. Thank you.
Wow.
that's just incredible, so.
Yeah, so just to explain, so we do our local Shakespeare competition, and she won honors there, so which brought her to regional at Syracuse. She got to work with a professor from Syracuse University who got to work in the Globe and has done like amazing things with Shakespearean acting and gave Emma some pointers. And then she was part of a very it was a very strong group of 9 students from the area who competed. And she, since I brought the competition back, we've had honorable mentions, but she's a first place holder, so that's great. I'm very proud of her. So.
Hold on a second, I'm gonna do this.
Absolutely.
Right here, see if I can slip myself on the cords back here. So Emma, on behalf of the board, I want to offer you this celebration with this certificate to recognize that, especially recognizing the impressive nature of memorizing that sonnet while also working through all the lines for the musical this weekend. My brain just hurts trying to think about it, so congratulations and thanks so much.
Stage left.
Well, I did not prepare a sonnet, but I'm going to try to do my best. So I got to go to Rochester for the state career conference for DECA. At regionals, I placed second, and then I switched actually competitions to a written event. So I prepared a 10-page document, and I also prepared a written presentation. If any of you guys know about the EHR or electronic health record systems, I created database software for just fixing those interoperable mistakes that I'm sure many of you guys have dealt with the frustrations of that. So I placed 3rd out of 60-something teams, and there was about 180 students on stage that competed against me. I placed top, so I got a trophy, and I also got a spot at the Orlando ICDC International Conference this spring. But though that is amazing, my main goal and my whole was that I received the position after being elected as the Vice President of Communications for the whole state of New York. I'm the first one in 15 years from Central or Upstate New York, as normally it's just the city kids. I ran against 19 kids from down in Long Island in the city, and I was just like, come on guys, gotta vote for me. And it was an incredible experience. I mean, what a small crowd. I just spoke in front of 3,000 people. That was nerve-wracking. But so I brought you guys a little something. So my thing was growing Anna Aldrich, like DECA, 1 flower, 1 member at a time. So I actually made 1,000 paper flowers to hand out, just to show that I was gonna like give that extra like bit of hard work and dedication to DECA, and it paid off. And I just cannot believe it. Like, they called my name on stage, and it was just such an incredible experience. And to be able to represent Homer in such a way as a small school, because I mean, people are like, who is Homer? I'm trying to put Homer on the map, and I just thank all of you guys so much for your support and for all that you guys have done for me and for helping me out, because I know you guys have heard me speak a couple times now. So thank you guys so much. And I can't wait to share my experience at ICDC for you, and being able to just enjoy this experience that I'm going to be able to make an impact on Homer DECA altogether. So thank you guys. Thank you.
We're trying to work on the shyness. It's really exciting to see that energy. I didn't have to do much with setup because she is so good at communications, and we're excited about that statewide opportunity as well as your performance. So.
And it's great to have you join us tonight and to celebrate with you as you've worked hard. I mean, you didn't just get there and all of a sudden your name was called. You worked hard to get there, as evidenced by flowers. And I heard before we started practicing a speech over and over again so everybody in their house can get it.
My parents like had to buy headphones because I said my speech so many times.
Can you tell them how many flowers you made by hand?
I made 1,000 of these. Each takes about 2 or 3 or 4 minutes depending on what kind it is. I started with one kind over and over again, and then I was like, I cannot make this kind anymore. And had to switch.
2 giant bins of flowers, 500 each, sitting on my counter in the classroom for about 2 or 3 weeks before we boarded that bus.
Well, congratulations, and we're proud of you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Benning. Our last group of students here tonight are with two of the finest art teachers in the region, Lauren Nels and Mrs. Bobby. Yeah. I still think the old name, I'm sorry, yeah. But Berkeley and Lauren are here with some students who want to update you on some upcoming activities in our art department.
The students are gonna, well, first of all, we have Lydia Gross, Bernice Gambauer, and Al Roscoe's here. We have an invitation to our upcoming art show. Lauren will talk a little bit more about that, as well as a little newsletter about what's been going on in our world.
Yeah. So we're kind of representing the whole art department here, and these highlights are a little bit from every school. So the invite you are getting. The invite is for our Imagination Celebration. That is a Cortland County-wide art show at the Dowd Fine Arts Center, Gallery at SUNY Cortland. So that's like our MVPs of the art world here, and every teacher in the county, every art teacher has pieces in this show. So that's a really great one. If we could, have you come, that would be wonderful. It's for the kids. We'll have music as well from around the county playing. And something else I wanted to mention, especially about the high school here, and you can take note of all the highlights that we have on this sheet, but the Scholastic Art Competition, the high school did really well, so thank you for supporting that. The entry fees come from the district. We got a Gold Key Senior Portfolio, which is a really huge deal, and then honorable mention portfolio, and then 3 gold keys for individual pieces, 10 silvers, and 23 honorable mentions. So that's a really good showing for Homer this year. So, anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. I think the students are going to talk on behalf of the junior high and what we've been doing this year, and just kind of sharing their experiences.
One of the latest projects we just finished, tying to those paper cranes, we folded over 1,000 paper cranes for Fabius Ponte School to honor the 2 losses they had, and yeah, that was a great project. That was very sweet.
We also had the opportunity to volunteer at Empty Bowls in November. And it was really cool. We raised over $50,000 at that event, just making soup from Soup Kitchen and different desserts, bread, salad, and it was a bidding auction.
But the students at our school also make the bowls that help fund that, so we're connected with that, but then also the opportunity to volunteer. You guys were all volunteers this year? Yeah?
And that's, sorry to interrupt, that supported the Cortland Los Fishes Food Bank, who also do the backpack program for us in the district, so.
And then in ceramics, we had a really cool project where 2nd graders drew monsters, and we got to bring that to life, and it was really fun connecting with everyone, and just a fun project together.
It's a collaboration.
SUNY Cortland.
Yes, so we also had the opportunity to take a field trip to SUNY Cortland, and we did a silk screen project, so we got to make, design our own design, and then we got to print them on, different clothing, so these are the ones that we made. But it was just cool seeing, different work spaces for, different professions in the art career. You could go into them.
Do you have any questions about anything on the sheet or for the kids?
Are we allowed to ask?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So I have a question. You know how it's just a 5 to 6 and then 6:30 to 7? Is it rude to just show up at 5:30? If you're timing, or do
No,
you need to be there when
we
it
did tell all the
starts?
students, we just try to break it up, if not, there's too many people trying to get through the doors at one time. But if the opposite time works for you, that's totally okay. And then the break in between is just to refresh the refresh.
So it's just casual?
Absolutely, completely casual, but if
Alright,
you just
I
left
didn't
the
know if
doors
there was
open.
chat in the beginning or
No,
something?
no,
and
no,
then
not
you
at all.
would be-
No,
Okay.
no, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I love what you do, and I really like that you're staying with that Monster Mash project. How many years have you done that now? It seems like a long time.
Yeah, so how old is your sister? Your oldest sister? 21. So she, I believe we did it with her. And we have kids that were second graders that made one in 8th grade. So, because they got theirs chosen. So it's been quite a few years. Yeah, it's fun.
Nice.
And then there was another one last year with,
With the studio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
intermediate with studio kids.
With their sculptures that we had done, so a little different collaboration, but very exciting.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wasn't that better than listening to me?
No comment.
Thank you for everyone for coming. What's that?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
All right. So we'll just keep the presentation mode rolling, and I will invite folks, you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like to and enjoy the fullness of this meeting. We also understand if you choose to use your time other places, this is probably a good spot to make that transition. As we move to our budget presentation for the
Yes, next on the docket for our conversation about budget, Michael is going to share with us some information specifically to our transportation department. So, Mr. Falls?
Well, they say never follow what pets and children. So I guess the presentation is in the file if you all want to look at it, and do I need to go up? No. So today we're going to talk about transportation. And just a quick breakdown of our district transportation. So we have a total of 38 buses, 6 vans, and 1 equipment bus. You may see that out and about the Blue Pride bus. We have over 113 daily routes. We have regular bus runs that bring children back and forth to school, special needs runs that may go to a special area in central New York. We have BOCES transportation, ed. We travel in excess of well over 3,000 miles a day. We have 27 regular drivers, 3 drivers without permanent routes, 2 mechanics, 1 driver/garage attendant, and 1 transportation supervisor. So going back several years, as part of our leasing plan, we had, for this year coming up, looked at leasing 7 66 passenger buses, which is a standard bus. It's a 66 passenger bus. For those of you who've been on a school bus, you probably wonder how would you get 66 people on there? They'd have to be very small. That's the maximum amount that you could place on a bus. So kind of taking a look with our leasing plan, where we've been. So going through in 2023, we had 7 66 passenger buses and 1 wheelchair bus. Last year, 7 66 passenger buses. And looking at this year's fleet, with the combination of routes, we've looked at possibly, and again as we go through the budget process, dropping that proposed number from 7 down to 6. So you can see that differential this year would either be with 6 buses, $186,000, or at $217,000 for the 7 buses. And again, that would bring our total for this year in the budget at either $902,000 or $933,000. And again, this will be part of the discussion as we go further. But really, in looking at it, we want to make sure that we have the correct fleet size for our population, but also we just don't have buses sitting out. Also, at any given time, we could have up to 5 buses in for a DOT inspection. That happens during the year. So people may ask, if you go back and say, well, wait a minute, we've got, essentially, 113 daily routes with 38 buses, but we have 27 regular drivers. That seems a little bit off, but again, 3 drivers. At this point, with 27 regular drivers, 3 drivers without routes, 2 mechanics, a driver, garage attendant, and a transportation supervisor, probably at any given day, they're all driving. So that just kind of gives you an idea why we need, the buses, the vans. Any questions so far on this piece?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we currently literally have employed 30 drivers, or is that our ideal number?
That's our ideal number.
So what do we actually have right now for drivers?
Right now, we are under that amount, so roughly 27 regular drivers and 3 without routes. So those are our flex drivers.
So what's up there is what we have?
Yes. So again, bringing this back into the conversation, in 2022, the governor had passed a provision that all districts transfer their fleets to zero emissions or electric buses, starting in 2027. And then your entire fleet has to go to an electric bus by 2035. There are discussions out there along the state if that's actually going to come to fruition in 2027. We will keep the district updated, but again, that becomes part of the conversation. And I'll, in part of the presentation, explain why. So really, the challenge of electric buses, number one, are cost for the bus, the electricity in regards to fuel of existing buses, route, battery considerations. Again, in your board docs tonight in the executive section, you're going to find 2 studies that the district had done. The first is for Matthews buses. That's a breakdown, and it's a very thorough breakdown. It'll even go through and show you kind of how the battery doesn't reach full charge in cold weather to that detail, and then show you how that would affect buses, the routes that we have out there, the charging time, so what could actually get charged between the morning runs and the afternoon runs. And then, you know, if there's a need to have additional buses, which we do have additional buses to cover that charging time in between. The other part of the study, National Grid. With National Grid, they broke down kind of what you would have to add to your infrastructure, the cost, and really what it would take to equip our buses to do this. So the financial consideration, the base model bus would cost anywhere between $370,000 to $450,000 a piece. Right now, our 66 passenger diesel buses would cost at purchase at $150,000. Right now, our diesel fuel budget is $231,000. And I'll show you on a few slides ahead what the breakdown would be for electric. Another piece of this as well is the fact that right now we are not paying any debt service for buses that we have. So it's not as though we went out and purchased 38 buses and now we're paying a bond back for these buses over a 10-year period. Right now we're paying straight up real time for our leased buses. At the end of a 5-year cycle for buses, the way that we've had it, we've already been through the cycle almost fully once to replace. You're replacing with brand new buses. In a purchasing bus cycle, most districts will keep them for 10 years. Some districts will keep them for up to 15 years. So when you see some of these buses that roll in for some of our sporting events from other districts, and you wonder how did that bus even get here, that's a bus that's been on the road for probably 10 to 15 years. The maintenance cost on those buses is astronomical. And just based on the cost of parts, and the fact that you need to have people there to fix them. That's why, for those who are new to the board, that's why we went to the leasing program. So with electric buses, there are incentive programs out there. We are a type C bus, and we are what's considered a prioritized district. So if we were to go and have to purchase the electric buses, there are, and this one's New York School Bus Incentive Program. Hypothetically, we could receive $147,000 from the state to offset that cost. There also are additional incentive programs. Many of them went out to districts to try it. They wanted people to kind of be the first ones out there to try electric buses, so they received a little bit more incentives. But again, there are several incentive programs out there for the buses. Take into consideration, Homer, a smaller school, out of the 700 some odd districts in the state, are going to be vying for these incentives. And really, whether or not all of them come to fruition. The biggest part of this, and you would think, well, Mike, you just showed us the biggest part, is the cost of the bus. It's not. The next part of this is that your infrastructure and charging stations. So for those of you who've been to a rest stop or a gas station, you'll see some of the charging stations out there. Essentially, we would need, and you'll see in the study, anywhere from 30 to 38 charging stations. If you wanted to put every bus, again, on a charging station, we would need 38. They take about 6 to 12 months to get the infrastructure installation complete. They could range in price right now anywhere from $18,000 to $25,000 a piece for a charging station. That doesn't take into consideration the hookups. That's just the charging station. And again, with this, the infrastructure to put that out to our existing footprint out here. National Grid, and if you care to read the report, again, all this is in there. They have a map that says, yes, we are capable to have that in place. Is it in place yet for that electricity? No. But are we capable of having this in the area? Yes. So again, I just took a snippet from the study, the consumption study. One of the biggest points in here is that you're going to look at the demand and the kilowatt demand. If you go from this report and then go into the report from Matthews Buses, which is a spreadsheet, it breaks it down even further on cold days. So if it were cold during the winter like it was this winter, what's the effect going to be on the battery and how much are you going to need to charge it? So right now the approximate monthly cost is about $28,000 for our fleet. So again, backing up, if you look at that, right now our budget for diesel, which is higher because the price of diesel actually has come down from where we were a year and a half ago, is at $231,000. So again, in presenting this, I'm not trying to present a pro or a con, I just want to make sure people have the information. So if it sounds like as I present it that I'm kind of swaying one way or another, it's just that I want to make sure folks have the information. Biggest part here, and in our area, with how cold it gets, and again, you're talking about, we're not traveling over flat terrain. We're traveling up in the hills with our buses, we're traveling hither and yon. So again, 30 to 50% of the cost of the bus are the batteries. You're talking anywhere from 8 to 12 batteries in a bus. And again, with this, you're going to look at the capacity. So that's a consideration. How many are going to need to travel, how far you're going to travel, how long you're going to travel, and how long does it have to charge. So again, about 4.5 hours between that morning run and that afternoon run. But we also have buses out that are out during the midday. So that's all part of the consideration. Estimated life for an electric school bus battery is 6 to 10 years. You'll see in the Matthews buses that they talk about with the cold, that level can go down. That shelf life, that battery life can go down. Now remember, you're paying for these buses over 10 years. So you want to get 10 years out of these buses. The consideration, and again, the third factor here are the battery warranties. So again, when you're going to be looking at purchasing these buses, if need be, then the battery strategy is in the best interest to get that warranty. Remember, you could be at year, if it's only a 5-year warranty on it, and you could have a bad cell on that battery right after or have to replace. So it's, again, not only are you going to have in this scenario that you're going to look at capital costs, you're going to look at bonding for the buses, but to be honest with you, you're probably almost in a situation where you're going to want to look at a reserve, because I imagine they'll create one, or the state will create one, that you're going to have for maintenance on the buses, as far as batteries go. Any questions? So a lot of these steps we've already started, but again, this is a record for the board, a record for those who come after me, that again, talking with engineering consulting contractor in NYSERDA for really a full transition plan. My recommendation would be to look at next year, starting that transition plan slowly by putting some buses into play as part of the budget to get that up and running. Again, looking at the funding opportunities, NYSERDA Again, the New York State school bus program, EPA Clean, there are other incentive programs out there for the purchase of the buses. Again, we've done a route analysis, and that spreadsheet will show you that, but you may want to have someone go back through, someone separate than Matthews Buses, because again, Matthews Buses, they've been a great partner with us, but they're selling the buses. So you may want to look and see, go with another group. And again, what's the fleet replacement plan? As I said, we're at an advantage right now because we're replacing a set of buses every year. We're not replacing a fleet. So again, by 2035, we're in a position that we can kind of move with a methodical plan as a district to replace these buses. Any questions so far? I'm throwing a lot out at you, and I think after, you know, I encourage folks to look at the breakdown of the reports too, and I'm happy to answer questions after that as well. Okay, our coming attractions.
Just before we get to that, the one thing that we did talk to our budget and finance group about prior, at the state level, there are a lot of conversations about this bus initiative, the zero emission bus initiative. A lot of pressure on the governor to rethink the timeline, to push it back from beginning in 2027 for a lot of the reasons that Mike pointed out. They do expect that she'll make that announcement within this budget cycle. That'll also go a long way to educating us as a district on the pace at which we should be going out and looking at these things and putting them on for propositions for our community to give us some feedback on. You've seen in our area, there have been some school districts that have put them up. Vegas Pompey actually is a district that did receive one bus a while back, had some problems with it, but when you start out something new like this, you're going to. Took them a long time to get the bus, and now they're having problems with it mechanically, with batteries. Our neighbor to the south, Marathon, had gone out and asked the community to support the local share of about $100,000 of the $380, $420 cost of an entire bus, and they voted it down. Another thought that seems to be bandied around at the state level, is this going to be something that our community will have to weigh in on, or will it be a mandate? Because at least early stages of this, we've seen communities say no. And so there's a lot of moving parts here. Mike, did a great job of outlining those key items. And again, Mike just said it, but I would reiterate what he said. Please take time to look at those studies and come back with additional questions. We'd love to entertain those. And certainly as advocacy continues at the state level, we'd like to share your thoughts with the larger boards of education at the state level. So with that said, we're going to continue moving. Mike, thank you so much. We are going to continue moving with our budget presentations. We just began talking with our building leaders. We had our first meeting earlier today where we were looking at staffing, enrollment, and those kinds of things. When we come back on the 25th, we will have met with all of the buildings, and we'd like to try to give you a feel for where we think we're going to be depending upon our student needs as it relates to staffing. I don't know that we'll have some more information from the state. The legislature is saying that they're going to be coming out with their proposals soon. How soon, we'll have to wait and see, but if we have updates for you, we will get them to you at that time. You can see that we only have one meeting in April. What we plan to do and what we've done in years past is schedule budget workshops in between there when we have additional information that we want you to react to and ask questions about, all culminating with our last day to approve the budget on the 25th of April. So just a little bit over a month, and we'll be ready to finalize and adopt the budget so that we can begin letting our community know what we're going to be asking of them to support. So a lot to happen in a short period of time, and we look forward to that process with you. Any additional questions for us?
I just got one more question on the electric buses. So you mentioned about keeping us up to date on, the state, moving forward. Well, I mean, the state's got data out there right now on some of these schools that have them. What's the possibility of the state retracting this movement as far as not pushing it out?
You mean with the current timeline? All indications are is it won't go away. It's more likely to just be delayed. At least that's what folks are saying now, because there's been a lot of political push behind this. I don't know that they're going to have a heck of a lot of data, because there aren't that many places that are full-blown in the midst of having these on the road, where they could definitively say, this is something that we're gonna continue or we're gonna discontinue. I think it's more likely, again, for them to give districts more time, and then as districts slowly begin to acquire the buses, then there would be a chance potentially for more data to be
If
shared.
the communities vote it down, you're saying that it could automatically just be a hard mandate? Is that what you're saying?
Well, and that's just Tom Turk talking. I mean, that's been conversations people have had. But with the feedback that they're getting from most of the communities that are voting these things, most are saying no, and saying it pretty emphatically. And so unless they can answer a lot of the questions and a lot of the issues that Mike had brought up and a lot of the questions that are out there, I think communities are going likely to continue to say no. Maybe if we can get better information about battery life and the cost of the buses come down a bit, and you know, those things become more clear, maybe more communities would be apt to say yes.
And we got one neighbor in school right now that we know of that has one.
Fabius has one. And Joe Peck is the superintendent there. He's invited anybody and everybody if you want to go ride one. The experience of riding one isn't that much different. It's what's under the hood, you know. But they were pretty excited to get it. They were pretty disappointed it took as long as it did, and they're really disappointed that they've had some issues with it mechanically already.
I'm guessing that would also mean some continuing in-service and education for our mechanics.
Yes.
Because it's
Oh, absolutely.
a totally different system to try to maintain. So there would be an additional cost incurred to the district for that to work.
And NYSERDA has a full breakdown of that as well, for what it would look like for mechanics to have to switch over.
And that would, just from, and that's assuming that you could do it in-house, right? I mean, there's a steep curve to that stuff, you know, with some of, that'd be
Well,
interesting.
and that's one of the considerations that when we put the new lift in during the capital project, is that it had to be rated for eventually if you went to electric buses. So it had to be rated for that tonnage. Yeah, on the bus. So the other part too, folks, is that in our budget presentations, and also our budget flyer that will go out, and when we decide on what the budget numbers are and such, is that last year when folks came through to vote on the budget, they were confused and thought they were voting on electric buses because we had talked about it in meetings. So we will make it clear again to the public in our budget information that these are diesel buses that they are voting on, that they're not electric buses. Because as I said, it was quite a few people, when you agree, Mrs. Jackson, that came through and had questions. So just to make sure that folks are aware of what
questions and strong opinions.
To put it mildly.
We sit there all day listening to them.
So is there a consequence to the district if there's a deadline, we have to make a decision and move in a direction by? Like if we don't do something by a certain date, is there a fallout from that? Is something like that set up or no?
So right now, Amy, they've not put anything that formal in place. However, we were mandated to have our bus plans. So again, when we had the 2 studies done, we had to have those in place by the end of last summer. Well, it was the where are you at, but if you weren't at where they wanted you to be at, then they strongly moved you along to that point. So the fact that we had already done that previous, but they haven't come out of this is what's gonna happen, but we'll see where the governor gets to this year to see if they start to issue an edict of that nature. But
So are we waiting to hear if there's an update from the governor before we make a decision as to how many, at what time we want to purchase? Is that where it stands right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right, I understand.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll move into our new business. And with that, I'll have a motion to approve the warrant reports and claims auditors reports.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? You have for information there the investment summary and the budget status and revenue status reports. I'm sure if you have any questions on that, Mr. Falls would be more than excited to answer any of those questions. Might even have a spreadsheet for you. So, need a motion to approve the reports from the Committee on Preschool Special Education.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the reports from the Committee on Special Education.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to accept the donation in the amount of $500 from CNY STEM.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to accept the donation in the amount of $2,500 from the Travis family.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
How long have they been doing that? It's pretty generous.
Thank
Has
you.
that been a long time?
Yeah, and it's used to fund 5 different awards. Yeah, it's very, very generous, and they replenish the coffers.
That's awesome.
Further comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We'll move personnel to the end, so I think we're at information items.
We are. We have a couple of informational items for you. First, the class of 2026 is going to be taking part in the Tape-a-thon. Mr. McGorry is going to be taped to a wall. Really? And we will have at least 4 or 5 cameras there to make sure we don't miss that activity. We thank Mr. McGorry for being a good sport with that.
Much lighter. I'll be up there for a while.
Yeah, that's right. We'll save money on tape, yeah. No, that's good news. And then the other is on April the 2nd, the OCM BOCES annual meeting will be taking place. This year it's up at the Thompson Road campus up in Liverpool. It starts at 6 o'clock with a dinner and 7 p.m. At a business meeting. But looking at your schedules, I believe you are going to be occupied with the superintendent search that night. So
We have that.
did he change it?
He did.
Okay.
It'd be kind of hard for him to be at both
Agreed.
places.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So if you're interested in going to the dinner, I'm going to go. And if we get a group and we want to carpool, we can get a district van and drive up. But it really is a nice opportunity to learn more about the programming that BOCES offers and to learn about their plan moving us forward. So let Kelly know, please, if you're interested in going on April the 2nd. It's a Wednesday, I believe.
all right.
That's what I have.
I'm looking out at our crowd and I don't see members from our community other than our administrators and that, but anybody wishing to be heard this evening? Dance, song, sonnet?
That was impressive.
All right, then we'll move to our board committee reports.
We had our Budget and Finance Committee, as we mentioned before tonight's meeting, and I would just ask if any of the board members wanted to add anything other than what Mike shared from our discussion.
Everything was covered nicely.
Thank you.
Okay. Under district committee reports, we have 3 meetings to tell you about. First is safety. Mr. Falls, you want to discuss?
Sure. Just to back up to the taping of Mr. McGorry, just a reminder that workers' comp does not cover acts of tomfoolery. And also, as just a FYI, we do buy tape on the lowest bid. So, state rules. So just
Put a crash mat out for him.
That's right. That's exactly. Just to make him aware and district aware of those. Yeah, so our last safety meeting was held on March 5th. We welcomed Janie Sorrell, our new director of facilities. We had talked about student safety, given some current issues in the district. Superintendent Turk addressed those. We had talked about our building level safety teams and our reunification plans. Mike Bonville, our safety officer, had talked about our asbestos report, our fire inspections, and our lead in the water testing, for which you may have received information home via Parent Square or researched them, and also the information that's on the web. Mr. Finn addressed us on our Navigate Prepared Safety app and the possibility of new safety apps out there. Mr. Chirk updated us on countywide radios that we have purchased. Countywide radios, in case of emergency, allow the district to be able to communicate with all of the first responders, as well as our buses, as well across the district. So it's something we've been looking at some time. The county had talked to us about one time about purchasing them. That fell through, but we did use district funds to purchase these radios. So they will be up and going. They're in the process of being programmed as we speak. We had talked about classroom to-go bags that the elementary PTO had purchased, that in case of emergency for our youngsters, that they would have activities or coloring sheets or things to keep the young kids occupied. And I know today in a district level meeting, we had talked about possibly moving those up into the older buildings as well. We had talked about electrical items in the classrooms. Ms. Sorrell had talked to folks about that and talked about what you can and cannot have in the classroom. We also talked about a parent emergency information guide, that we have an internal emergency guide for all staff, but what we would do to help put something out for parents on the web or through Parent Square or both, that would kind of give instructions and helpful hints on what their role would be in an emergency. So really kind of to break it down into simpler terms. We had again talked about some roundtable issues, talking about vaping and lights in the classroom, and we had also talked about with the vaping of, and Mrs. Keita had brought up to the group, bringing in guest speakers, and we paired. What's that, Janie?
Janie gets credit for that one. I was the shorts.
Correct. So I'll let you, if you want to jump in, and when I'm done with this, talk about that piece. Yeah. So we had talked about, some of the having guest speakers or some other parts, and I guess Amy, if you want to jump in with your thoughts.
Sure. My thought is that it seems like the high school is well developed in their vaping exercises, and that we should probably start targeting information towards our junior high kids. And we know that what's attracted to them is they watch reels and shorts, like that's typically what they do. And since we have all the technology in our buildings and we have all those TVs, I had talked about in our generation when there was a frying pan and there was an egg and Susie Brain on drugs. It really existed.
Oh, I did.
And it sat with you. And so it left a lasting impression. And I thought maybe there's some shorts or some reels that really kind of like resonate. And that would be addressing it on their level for what they think, what they're attracted to. And it would be something, because I feel like we have to do something to start. And it's an issue in high school, we know that, but we should probably back it up and get to them before they get to the high school. So that was that, and then Janie jumped in with that. There's multiple people that tour the U.S. that are like survivors with health conditions and things of that sort. So those were just some ideas for things that
Amy, do you know if they still had, do you remember ADSIP, Alcohol and Other Drug Student Information Programs?
No.
That was one I know, a long time ago, right? 30 years ago, but that was one that we had in the governor, and it was a student thing, but you'd go and, learn about the various gateway drugs back in the day, and you come back and speak to the school about it, but you did it as a student, and we had that was one of those things. I wonder if they do any of that anymore.
I think we had SAD. When I was here, I was in SAD.
I think they still have SAD.
We still have SAD. I remember in the junior high, there was a program called Reality Check, which was much more focused on just vaping, and that was, I was a part of that for all 3 years, and that was an incredible program. We went to all did some lobbying and a lot of stuff, so I don't know if that's still a thing at the junior high.
It
is. But that was a great
A
program.
group of them actually came to visit my office today.
Good time. Thank you. And we just followed up again with a roundtable on our next meeting date. So again, a very productive meeting and well attended. So any other questions on our safety meeting?
The countywide radio, that's great. I mean, how many are there?
17.
17.
Oh, wow, awesome.
Yeah. So we have key people in each of the buildings and departments that'll have them. It'll help us in our communication.
And the
efforts.
SROs, they probably have their own
Yeah.
rec radios, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thanks, Mike. We also have instructional leadership, and then Jeff, I'll have you roll right into student engagement too.
Yeah, absolutely. ILC met today. We had a continued work on our analysis of our technology applications, kind of a final eyes before we may start making some decisions about those applications in which we're going to keep, those applications which we're not going to really support anymore. So that's really, that's digging deep into a lot of different content areas, grade levels, digging deep into, well, we've had that for a long time, I really like it, but we have these 3 other ones that are really cool too, so, having a lot of those conversations. We reviewed the draft staff development day agenda briefly, get some more eyes on that. That's coming up March 31st. And then we had a brief conversation regarding our summer curriculum process that kicks off this summer with our social studies curriculum area, pre-K through 12, and what that's going to look like and who's going to be involved in that. So that was today's meeting. And then back February 27th, the Student Engagement Task Force met. We had a very much an aggressive agenda for the hour that we met, but we're attempting to answer, a myriad of questions. How will we know if we're successful? Those measurable goals that we can measure our strategy implementation against. What's important right now, so our goal is to prioritize over the 5 years. We have 6 strategies that we're responsible for implementation. Clearly, we can't do them all 24, 25 school years, so phasing those in a reasonable approach. And then who's gonna do what? Identifying those accountability groups, who's gonna oversee the implementation of the various strategies embedded in the plan. Those aren't in the plan right now, but that's part of our next step, is getting those in the plan. We looked at resources that we're gonna need to implement some of these strategies, and then some additional questions that come up about the strategies. When a strategy says implement best practices, well, we should be identifying those small number of best practices regarding differentiated instruction and who's gonna be responsible for that. So again, robust agenda for the hour we met, so the work will continue into the school year. At the end of the school year, we'll have a meeting or 2 left to get this work hopefully wrapped up and really phase out that 5-year, now 4 years left on our current strategic plan. Any questions regarding ILC or student engagement?
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'll share in any board member activities.
I have something I want to share. After I've been hanging out together all those nights, right? I started looking at other districts and seeing other agendas and meeting minutes and YouTube. Some people use Zoom. They use different ways to do it, and watching. It's something I thought would be maybe kind of cool for us to bring in, and it's so when we have our opening comments with the president and the superintendent, some other districts actually have their student liaison, let them have a line in there so that, because I think Chris has a lot to share, and maybe it's a little awkward to share at the end like this, and if we assigned him an area. So that was something that I had discovered when I was poking around at other schools that I wanted to bring attention to, that I thought maybe we could do that to help include Chris and hear more what he has to say. And checking out sports, checking out drama, hanging out with you guys a lot.
Chris, what do you think of that?
Lots of hanging
Would you like to do
out.
that? Yeah, that's a good idea.
Start practicing your sonnets.
Right.
You phone a friend on
Yeah.
I think you can pull that off.
I think you definitely
I think
can.
he would do great. Do you guys, everyone know what he's gonna go to college for? Does everyone know?
He's been beating me since he was in 3rd grade.
No.
broadcast journalism.
Nice.
I think this would be great for him, so.
Mr. Turk, any advice?
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
You can hop right in with a budget presentation.
That would be super fun to watch you do that.
Any other board member activities you want to look at? Upcoming events?
Yes, there are a lot of them. Some that are going to be taking place this week. We have our Battle of the Books. That's taking place on Thursday night. Check that, tomorrow night at the junior high school. If you haven't been to that, it's a lot of fun. It's one of the few activities where you'll see our kids sharing their love of reading in a game show format. It's a lot of fun. And it's great to see how competitive, not just the kids are, but how competitive the parents are. They make for a raucous crowd in the junior high gymnasium. We've also got our high school college information night. That's tomorrow night as well. Our first grade concert is the 13th on Thursday night. It's a lot of fun watching our kids participate. And I'm not a board member, nor do I have a time to talk about activities, but watching Into the Woods over the weekend was just great, outstanding. Our kids did such a nice job, such a talented group, and it was on full display. So our kids do great things. It's nice to get out and see them in action. So that's what I have.
All right, and then with that, I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session to discuss the personnel of particular person or persons and any potential litigation or any of that stuff.
All right, sounds good. Mr. Van Etten, if you could come in with us to start.
So moved.
I was gonna say,
So move, second.
we gotta go through the steps here. We can't just go performance. So we had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.